All right, let's try this again. I sent the guys new invites, and we will pick up where we left off. Hey, Sarcasm, good to see you. We don't know what happened. It wasn't on StreamYard, so we think that was YouTube. I think YouTube screwed up. Oh, wait. Nope.
No what?
No, that wasn't it. So I thought I got an email, but it wasn't. That was super, super weird. There he is. Okay. Yeah. So we're back, and we just watched the trailer for Child Eater, and as I said, it was lighting and sound that dipped it for this one. For me, that's what it kind of like dragged it. It was kind of an interesting story. Some new things that they're trying to do as far as what they were writing, but ultimately they failed to take the risk they needed to take as far as making a horror film, which is a bummer because they had a lot of really good areas to play with. Good sets. So the barn area where they were at, the houses that they were running around, that big open.
I don't think they got to see the trailer. I think they missed all of.
Did they miss the trailer as well?
Yeah, I think they missed all of it. So
we have not seen the trailer. Okay, so let's try this again.
Yes, 2016 Child Eater. It's a terrible movie.
Watch the trailer again.
Oh, leave it out.
This doesn't know the history behind this place, so I'd appreciate if we could keep that quiet. He has a pretty active imagination. Ah, there he is.
Hello there.
Come down, don't be shy.
I'm Helen.
Widow's Peak Sheriff's Office, this is Casey.
Got kind of a crazy vibe on that one.
It's my mom's.
They're pulling from.
Was my mom's. It's supposed to be for protection.
Katniss Everdeen is his mom.
It keeps the monsters away.
Mockingjay.
I think I saw someone in the woods.
She volunteered as tribute. That's why she's not in the movie.
The farm is very dangerous. You should not go there alone.
It was like
it's a giant mouse man.
And a voice whispering.
Did you hear that?
Hello?
Someone's in there.
Lucas? Come now, please. I think someone's in the house.
Always a bad move.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Safest place to be, always.
Give us a kiss.
She's not a child.
So, yeah, so the last two films so bad the internet tried to stop us. Yeah, but the internet will never stop us. So, but yeah. So, yeah, Johnny, give the breakdown real quick.
All right.
So they're all caught up.
This is a 2016 film, Child Eater, written and directed by Erlinger Thordson. I hope I said that right, but probably didn't. It stars Kat Bliss, Colin Critchley, Jason Martin, and that's about it. There are a couple other people in there, but they're more side players. This is a babysitter gone awry film when babysitter babysitter realizes that the boogeyman does in fact live in the closet of Katniss Everdeen's youngest child. There you are.
Pretty much. So, yeah. And what killed it, obviously, there's we've talked about it before. What I mentioned before was it was lighting and sound that killed this film. That was the drag on it. We couldn't see what we needed to see. Yeah. They didn't maximize what they had. But these are the perils of filming out in the woods at night, trying to control your sound, trying to light things appropriately. And of course, if you're a bad guy, sucks, as far as the design goes, because Johnny actually commented this fucker was like a Jeepers. It was like an early rejected version of the Creeper. So
it was actually Eugene, but yeah.
Oh, was Eugene that said that?
Yeah,
Was it-
yeah.
Okay, my bad. So yeah, so you, Sir Kev said I hacked the stream in protest because Nightlight wasn't found footage. Yeah, it was fucking crazy. I don't know why it quit like that. I honestly don't, because typically
That's been a thing that's been going on. Other creators have complained about that happening. So
that was
Yeah,
so
you
weird.
can
Yeah,
say.
it wasn't because we played a trailer. It wasn't. So
It
I
just
have no idea.
crashed?
It just crashed.
Huh.
So yeah.
anyway, this movie is just not fun. It was the same tired old tropes, like Boogeyman meets Amityville meets Halloween, but all the worst versions of those movies put together.
You
And
could see what they took from other movies to
Yeah,
try and
absolutely.
inform this one. It was blatant. It was kind of like,
Yeah,
it was
it
like,
was
I mean,
painfully
it was like a bad patch job.
yeah, really, it was exactly. It was like whenever you find that old jeans, right? And you're like, oh, these old patchy jeans, I can't wear them. So your mother like cuts out squares and makes a quilt out of it, but she does a shitty job of doing it.
But it's all shitty. So
The parts that she cut out, because usually you cut out the good parts of the fabric. No, she cuts out the parts that have the holes in it. So there you are.
No, and see, the thing is like watching this, it feels like the film was shot like in like 2007. Like it
Right.
just
Yeah.
like the first kind of like digital cam feel to it, and people still
Yeah.
haven't really figured out like how
Right.
to really light for it yet. And it's we I understand in 07, and that was kind of the style at the time, even though despite the fact that I don't like it, but the fact this came out in 2017 is like
2016. But
or,
even
like,
still, there were
20
plenty.
2016, yeah.
You had the technology, the digital technology, and the wherewithal had been out for quite some time. They were making advancements and improvements. And it's not like just because you change the media in which you record the thing means you all of a sudden just throw cinematography out the window. You throw lighting diagrams and specs out the window because LEDs weren't a thing. I mean, not like they were now. LED technology and lights have just come fucking leaps and bounds since 2016. But still, you knew people who were working with HSI lights, were working with tungsten lights, working with, they knew how to light shit. It's just they didn't get the right crew. They didn't get the right cinematographer. It seems like they said, let's do this as quickly as possible and then kind of patch this thing together and then put out a movie.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like a rush job, that it was
does.
maybe a movie for the sake of just making a movie.
Right.
or quite possible. I got the sensation that there was a lot more that was intended because the way where they were shooting. So you get a lot of these big location shots, obviously out there in the woods, and you have the time at the abandoned warehouse, and then of course the police station, and then of course the house where the girl is babysitting. There's a lot of these big areas that are these big set pieces that are in the film in itself, and we don't utilize them to their full extent. So we don't make full use of the place where we're at. So we don't get a sense of like kind of like the environment playing a role as it normally does in a film. Whereas where you are is as much a character as any of the people that are running around in it.
Should be.
As it should be, but we
Yeah.
don't get a sense of that. And I think I think there was actually substantially more to this film that didn't get shot because we jump from these massive places that have all these implications, like what is this place over at? But we're not going to explore it at all. We're going to run around for a little bit, then we're going to run to the next big set. It was almost like they found the location where they wanted to shoot. They secured these magnificent places that have all of this production value, but unfortunately weren't able to utilize it, or they just cut it out. Like they shot it, maybe it was too long, or they didn't get a chance to utilize because maybe they didn't have the money to shoot as much as they wanted to shoot. Because sometimes you grab a hold of a budget and you realize this is what's in the script isn't going to lend itself. But when you're on set, you get ideas, you get inspired, and you can say, "Oh, we could do it like this." Nope, you can't. Your hands are tied. So we can't even stay in the scary places that long.
Right. That's poor planning. That's when
Right.
your pre-production hasn't done what it needs to do. I always go back to, I forget, season 4 of Project Greenlight, where this director was always at odds with the producer because the producer was telling him, like, no, you can't do this because we don't have the money. And he kept begging for money and this whole thing. And what she was doing is she was keeping a contingency budget for post-production and whatnot. And it came back. It was funny because it came back and they had to do a reshoot. And she's like, "Oh, okay, cool. We got to do a reshoot. We can afford this because we have the contingency budget." And then he started to cry. He's like, "Oh, wait, we had this money this whole time, so we could have done this one stunt that I wanted to do that would have taken up the entire contingency budget." And like, no, you have to have somebody who's there to say, look, make it. We have $100,000 budget. You need to shoot this for 80 grand, and we'll hold 20 just in case we got to do a reshoot. And this production didn't have that. It's obvious because, again, yeah, a lot of it was rushed, and it seems like they just maybe had some good ideas that they weren't able to properly execute. And again, that goes back to poor planning.
Right.
You got to sit there and you got to shot list. You got to draw a bunch of pictures on paper. By the way, we found another gem of Eugene's drawings.
This is why I don't storyboard.
Let me know in the side chat if you want to see it, because I'll go get it for you.
Rodan Nolesane brings up an interesting point. Is maybe the locations were rented for a different film, and this was a piggyback on the production. Because that happens sometimes too.
Yeah, that does happen often, and it's a good thing to do if you have the right script and the right planning behind that script, because productions will sometimes greenlight your project based on the fact that they can save money because they've already booked this location for this amount of time, and their shooting days are like, well, we'll have this day, this day, this day, and this day off from shooting so you can have location for these days. But that's it. You don't get any more days at location. So that's possible.
Vera Lucia Campos says, what about a horror film about a YouTube channel about horror that traps the subscribers?
Little did you know.
Sarcasm says, Vera, it's called PewDiePie. So what got me about this one is that obviously, and you brought it up earlier, that the boogeyman film, or the boogeyman horror film, has been overdone. Is one of the most ubiquitous tropes throughout horror films.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to see the picture. Yes, show the picture, Johnny O.
All right, I'll find it.
Okay, so it is a ubiquitous trope. It's used often. It's an extension of the other, the idea, the unseen other that is out there in the darkness, out there in the shadows, that could be lurking there waiting for us. It's the personification of the unknown is what that is, what the boogeyman ostensibly is, and it leads, traces all the way back to telling children stories of don't go out into the dark all by yourself, because you could be taken, you could be killed, you could be eaten, or whatever. And these things have lived on throughout human history. The stories have been retold over and over and over and over and over again. But as far as a horror trope, and what got me is like they keep going back there. We already had a boogeyman trilogy that literally was the boogeyman. It itself is a boogeyman story. This was a boogeyman film. There's so many that we could name. Just the scary other, the darkness that's out there, the unseen threat that is beyond the camp, that is beyond the firelight. And so the thing that gets me on this, Babadook was another good one. The Babadook was a boogeyman story. And there's so many movies that do it great, and then other ones that drop the ball like that. So but the vast majority, I don't think play very well. We're going to have to see how the new Stephen King one comes out, the one that we watched the trailer for in a previous episode. We're going to check that one out and see what that brings to the table. But already, I think this is an overstuffed table. It really, really is. We keep getting the same. It's essentially the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's what can you bring new to the table? But there's been so many. Can you bring anything new? Is there something new here?
So we asked that question a lot, and then when you bring up the Babadook did bring something new to the table, right? So instead of utilizing the monster for the monster's sake, it was symbolic of something else. We're talking about dealing with trauma and how this particular character dealt with trauma, which is a good usage of the boogeyman, right? This one here, there's no usage. It's just the boogeyman. It's a story about the boogeyman and not a story about trauma.
So similar to like the monster in 2016 about the monsters in the woods, and really the story is about the single mom and her daughter and their tumultuous relationship when that is put up against this terrifying entity out there in the woods.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because that way it becomes so much more, and you focus more on the characters, and you're able to develop the characters more than it's just this random creature that's just, this is creature there kids are scared of. It's been done to death. I mean, just hands down. Like, if anybody's like, we're going to release a new boogeyman, I don't care.
So you think about all the good horror films that you've ever seen, all the really good ones. And I'm talking about like the fun, campy ones, like the Nightmare on Elm Streets and the well, even if you look at Nightmare on Elm Street, there's a lot of good tropes into that. Whereas you do have, the scary monster and whatnot. There's not a single good zombie film that's about zombies. Not one. Not a good one. They are It's about the people. It's about the social commentary. It's about whatever. You know, there's something that is being said. The zombies are just players in this film. You look at good like The Babadook. You look at Hereditary. You look at Midsommar. You look at those movies that are really, really good at utilizing scary shit in order to tell a different type of story, in order to offer commentary on dealing with trauma, dealing with, societal divides, whatever. And when you get a movie like this, when you get a movie like Child Eater, I didn't feel like the commentary that was bringing to the table was any good, because it didn't really bring any commentary to the table.
Just we're talking. That's what I get. That's what I got. It's kind of like that. If you would imagine was very similar to the separation between two similar movies, which was Boogeyman, the original one with I think it was Scott Wilson or whoever was from Party of Five, and Darkness Falls. Because Darkness Falls, all ostensibly the same one. You have a bad guy that hides in the darkness and is coming to take away children and shit like that, and they're essentially the same movie. But the reason Darkness Falls always was a little bit better for me than that I felt was a better film than Boogeyman was, even though both films, were critically kind of like, bleh. But I liked Darkness Falls better because Darkness Falls put more focus on the relationship between the mom and the little boy and the guy and the protagonist who was terrified, who was terrorized in the beginning of the film.
Right.
Their relationship and how he was coping with his own trauma and they were coping with their trauma, and how they found through that shared trauma, they were able to find solace with one another and find the strength to overcome the bad guy. That's what made that film narratively more intriguing, this one. So I think it comes down to that the trope is so ubiquitous and we understand it will never go away. People will always be afraid of the unknown, especially the unknown other that may be hiding in the shadows. The reason that's why it's going to be, it's all about keeping yourself safe, not dying, and not being victimized. But the important thing is that you have to humanize your characters. It's all in how your protagonists, how they deal with the situation. So you got to go kind of the Stephen King route, whereas you create the normal everyday characters that you can believe in, that you can understand, that you can identify with, just normal everyday people, and then you turn the lights off and throw the monsters on them and see what happens. Mm-hmm. So we need characters that we can get into, because this is a story that we internalize. We have to be able to internalize it. If you just make it about the monster with paper cutout characters, we're not going to give a shit, and we're not going to be able to invest in anything. Yeah. It's going to be a waste of time.
Unless it's like a Hatchet style slasher.
Because then you don't care about the character. Right. You watch a slasher for the deaths. Whereas if you take something like the Boogeyman or something that has some supernatural element, we have to care about the characters. And if we don't care about them, then you're just waiting for just like stupid jump scares to get old after a while. Right. So that's the thing in terms of any type of a film, is you have to add in that good characterization, because that's what makes your film stand out, because we remember those characters. If you take something like somebody mentioned Poltergeist, we cared about the family.
Yeah,
it felt like a real family unit.
That was the Spielberg side of it.
The Spielberg, the real family. So when the mom is going into like the other dimension to rescue the girl, you're on the side, you're on like the edge of your seat going, I hope they get back. I hope they get back. Versus in this, we're like, oh, he's in the closet.
Kill him already. Get over with.
Yeah. So I think that's what it comes down to, is like the origins are there and they're well understood by everybody. And it's always going to be a story that we come back to. And so the question is, are you going to try and just, try to tell the same story over and over again? Or are you going to try and tell the story and do something differently from a technical perspective to try and show the audience something new? Very similar to like interesting shots, like the new Boogeyman trailer had the little girl with the moon nightlight that can roll around, and she utilized that, and then we see that interesting stuff like that. But that's just interesting technically. That's just showing us something that we may not have seen before. What we want are characters that none of those characters, if we can identify with them, other than they're scared, then they're not going to get us on anything. That's the beauty of it. Yes, Pennywise was terrifying. Yes, the Tim Curry version was terrifying. Yes, the Bill Skarsgård version was terrifying. But what really sells us is we identify with the kids. We identify with being out. We identify with the Losers Club. That's what sells that story. And that's why I think there's a disconnect between the kids, between the 1950 stuff and the 1980 stuff, or if you watch the new stuff, the 1980 stuff and the 2000 stuff, is because
part of it though is the fact that that's more commentary, right? So we're talking about commentary of what it means to be prepubescent or adolescence and then grow up out of it to an adulthood. Because if you look at the adults in Derry in Stephen King's It, they're all fucking assholes. They're all assholes. There's not one likable adult in Stephen King's film. Not one. Or in the book. There's not one likable adult. And that's part of the commentary. This is what happens when you get older and you get beat down with, you're living in a town that has 13, 14, missing children at once. And it was like, well, whatever, just one about a day, no big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, when you think of the story, it's about growing up. Yep. And it just happens to have Pennywise there. So this is exactly what this film is. It feels like it's cookie cutter. It feels like this had no vision. This is the type of film that it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't have like a shot list, that they just kind of winged the cinematography.
Hey, put the camera over there, you go sit over there, and let's
and let's just roll it and let's just see what we get. And that's probably why there's not even interesting shots, because usually even if you have some kind of shot list, you can have some cool camera movements, some cool lighting. It's cookie cutter.
Yep.
Oh, Javer says, no shit, that was Skarsgård? Yes, that was Bill Skarsgård. And he'll be returning for the HBO prequel series that's coming to HBO Max before they cancel it after one season.
What they do.
That's what they do. So, and he says, I thought It Chapter 2 was a comedy.
There were some interesting choices in It Chapter 2. I didn't dislike it. I didn't hate it, but some things was like, come on, man. Like the scene where Eddie in the leopard, he gets thrown up all over and it, starts playing, just call me angel in the morning. Come on, man.
Oh, we got some new people who popped in real quick. I see Michelle Michelle with 1L is here. Good to see you, Michelle. Thanks so much for being here. Extra J as well is here. Good to see you. NA chopped in. Good to see you. NA and McKinnon Mitchell is in the house. Good to see you, McKinnon. And McKinnon said something. He said, maybe not always the characters, but maybe not always the characters, but at the very least, a representation of something in the story, not just a monster for monster's sake. And I agree with that, absolutely. And then he said, personally, I love slashers where we do care about the characters. Imagine a slasher where the characters are from a support group dealing with the same issue, and the slasher represents their conflict. Very interesting stuff. I like that. And then, so what is this? You don't want to care about, correction. You don't want to care. Oh, Aaron Reed said you don't want to care about all the victims in a slasher, but you should care about the last girl or guy and be interested by the villain. Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, then of course, Aaron Reese says, I knew McKinnon Mitchell would be wrong someday. And then McKinnon said, I will not tolerate your lies, fake news. So it's just funny to me. But yeah, Tim Curry will, you're right, Sorsha. Tim Curry will always be Pennywise. He brought a terrifying presence to that I think was unmatched. There's a reason why
on that for 15 minutes.
He sold
it. Was a great 15 minutes. Don't get me wrong. It was a great 15 minutes, but that movie was terrible.
The miniseries?
The miniseries was terrible. You take Tim Curry out of the miniseries and fuck that movie.
Oh, he definitely, he sells it. That's why he's fantastic. But there's a reason why Tim Curry was too scary and was replaced with Mark Hamill in Batman the Animated Series. It's because originally Tim Curry was going to be the voice of the Joker. But apparently it was too scary for test audiences. So they're like, yeah, we're not going to go that route. But thank you, Tim. Thank you for bringing Mark.
Thank you for being too good at your job.
Yes. Thank you for, because
we wanted them to think, ooh, scary, not only.
Like, oh, fuck. It's terrifying. I'm trying to imagine his voice in that animation style is like, yeah, that would be fucking freaky as hell.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the big thing about this. And of course, they got to put focus on the characters. If we don't give a damn, we have to be able to invest. We have to be able to attach. We have to be able to put ourselves in those shoes and identify. And if we can't, then it's just going to be we're watching a supernatural slasher that defeat X. Something
without all the good slasher deaths.
Which is why movies like The Grudge, where you have it's the house that's haunted, it's the house that's cursed. You go and you get affected by it, and they're probably going to die. So, but if they were just cookie cutter people, like one-dimensional, two-dimensional characters walking into the house and then being killed, what's the point of that? Which is why there's so much work done to create those characters and make them deep and make them interesting and really sell this like a literal flesh and blood individual that we can identify with, and then we feel for them when the ghosts are coming after them. That's what's so important.
I kind of want to hit one point that you're talking about there before we move on, because I don't want to sit on this movie any longer. We got to get to the fucking tentacle porn film.
Not wrong.
Not wrong. He's not wrong.
So talking about character development, like when you look at a movie like Midsommar and you look at the development of the character, there's so much done between the protagonist and her boyfriend.
Right.
So much groundwork is laid in the very beginning of that movie, in the first 20 minutes, 25, maybe 30 minutes of that movie. And then little things like stuff that you don't pick up on first watch unless you're really paying attention, but you notice it, right? So there's a scene, and this one probably gets brought up a lot, but there's a scene later on when they're asking the two how long they've been together. And he says, I think it was 3.5 months or 3.5 years. And she says 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that. It wasn't a mistake on the confusion was because he planned on breaking up with her when her family was killed.
Right.
Spoiler alert, by the way. But it's little things like that. Those are little character development moments that have to go into your planning, into your screenwriting, into your character build, that help build that relationship that we as the audience have with the characters that we're seeing on screen, which makes us more invested in what actually happens to them. Otherwise, you get shit like Freddy versus Jason, where you have a whole bunch of kids on there that you don't give two shits about. Like, just fucking kill them already. I mean, just get over with. Fucking murder them, get them out of the way, and then we'll go on to the next thing.
And it's great that you brought up Midsommar, because if they made the boyfriend just a straight asshole, that movie wouldn't be nearly as good.
Right.
But you feel bad for him because he's actually a good guy.
He's a good guy trying to do the right thing. He just doesn't know how to do the right thing.
Just doesn't know how. Yeah. He's fucking. Yeah. Like he's stuck in a situation that he didn't anticipate. He's stuck in a situation that he didn't anticipate. And in trying to do the right thing, he winds up screwing himself. Then he resents being screwed over because he realizes it's his fault, which is why he doesn't want to take it out on her. And he finds himself in this juxtaposed scenario. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Oh, right. Sacrificial druids. Shit. And that's, what that's what happens. Oh, fuck, bear suit. So
yeah. And that's why the ending has an impact, because a lot of it was him trying to do the right thing. She has basically collapsed emotionally to the point where you have the ending of the film. So it's like no win situation for anybody, right, but you're rooting for them.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we've beat this one to death. We've talked about all the different types of boogeyman horror films, from the Babadook to this piece of shit to the actual boogeyman. What I want to know, and you can let me know at weekinhorror@gmail.com in the comment section or the side chat, what is in your opinion, the best boogeyman horror film? Let us know. I'm curious. I can tell you what my best boogeyman film is. I'm about to show it to you right here. Let's see. Let's get this where we can. Wait, hang on a second. Let me do this really quick.
What are those archaic runes?
Hey, okay. So the longer you look at that photo, this picture right here, the worse it gets.
That's some cyanide and happiness shit right there, man. Over the shoulder, overhead. What's he playing with?
What indeed?
That is someone getting stabbed in the chest with a knife. That's what it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. What it looks like is someone who's not happy with what he's playing with.
Why doesn't it do what I want it to do? That's hilarious. That's hilarious,
everyone.
So I'm not allowed to do storyboards anymore.
McKinnon Mitchell says that is someone getting stabbed. Knew I saw sex shit. Absolutely. Absolutely. And no, Vera Lucia, no, that was not a storyboard for an adult film. That was a storyboard for a slasher film, but you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Oh man. Vera, I
I
don't
can be
know.
thorough in all of my work.
Ronald James says more art for coffee mugs. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, we've got to do that series. We got to do a limited edition run of just like Eugene
Eugene
storyboards. Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's got it has to say on the mug what the scene is so that they know, that they can look at it and go, what?
What is this?
All right, Eugene, we got one more. Take us home.
Oh man, this was a rough one.
If you have children in the room, send them away.
Yes. Yeah. So we have Progeny, which was released March 30th, 1999.
I'm gonna party like
it's
it's
not. I'm just thinking that. Let's take a look at this.
After hoping and praying, Craig and Sherry Burton's dream
We're gonna have a baby!
has just come true.
Can you believe it?
No, I can. I mean, it's fantastic.
I figure conception was about 7 weeks ago. Isn't that great?
But
No,
it's
it
nothing
wasn't.
like they expected.
I got the results back from the fertility lab. It's like 1 in a million that I could get you pregnant.
Because this baby is definitely
Never saw anything quite like that before.
What is it?
not
Diabetes.
of this world.
That's impossible.
Craig?
Now,
What's inside her is not a normal fetus.
It's moving inside me. I felt it.
the only way to save themselves
I need you to think back to that night. Something happened.
is to face the terror within.
I don't think that this is our baby.
What happened to you and your wife is not as unusual as you may think.
Why are we gonna do this?
Aliens harvest the babies.
The impossible
Then I have to terminate this.
Is that what this is all about? You don't think this is your baby?
cannot be denied.
I'm gonna die, Craig.
When you feel it
Emergency removal of an alien fetus.
inside you.
Don't kill our baby.
This is not our baby.
Progeny.
Sorry, my bad.
It's okay. It's all right. You can kick me for this one. Fuck.
So yeah, so you got Progeny, directed by Brian Usna, starring Arnold Vosloo, Julian McWhirler, Brad Dourif, and Susan Wright. And basically, you have it right there. You have a couple that are having a good time trying to get pregnant, and she gets pregnant, but it's not by him.
It's not by the Scorpion King either.
No,
it's not by Emotep. It's not by Emotep, and it's not by Chucky, who is also Brad Dourif, who's in this as well.
Yep.
There's a bunch of people that, shockingly, this is a very surprising amount of number of named people. Obviously, you got Arnold Vosloo, and you got Brad Dourif, and you got Lindsay Krause, who people remember from from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and of course a number of other films like The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. And you got fucking Wilford Brimley up in this bitch. It was like, what the? She's like, I was shocked. And of course, this is a Brian Usna film. Usna known for films like fucking Society, and of course, produced by Stuart Gordon, who is also very fond of very similar movies. So, basically, the big thing they have going for them, and I find it's interesting because Stuart Gordon and Brennan Gordon and Usna are very much in the Hen and Lauder camp. And that is taking things that are taking things that we consider, intimate and subjects that we may almost consider taboo as far as bringing horror into them, and then smashing those fuckers together as hard as you can and just really going for the gusto. Obviously, in the big shunting scene in Society, it's similar like that. Then you have a lot of just weird tentacle stuff that's very Lovecraftian in respect to the way their inspirations come from. But that's what they go for. That is all this movie is let's have the characters run around and say stuff so we can get to the next weird tentacle sex scene of her vaguely remembering being impregnated by aliens And first they're good aliens, but then you realize the real memories and they're bad aliens, and they're like blah, and just like gross things coming out of, they don't even look like penises. So, but nonetheless, that's what this is. Yuzna. This is Yuzna and Gordon doing sci-fi. This is what they do. This is the beauty of it, is they bring a concept like, whether it's family or whether it's childbirth or whether it's just sex and it's intimacy, and they put a horrifying, slimy twist on it. This goes all the way back to like Gordon in Reanimator, all this sex stuff that was in Reanimator, which they added to that, like sticking the head between her legs and shit. So this is where it goes. This is what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely something. Personally, think Reanimator's a little bit. It's just more entertaining.
It was more fun. Reanimator.
Yeah, this was more like and now we're back into tentacles. Now we're back in a spaceship. Now,
I've never seen so much of Arnold Vosloo's ass. I just never have. I wasn't expecting it. But I mean, this is where a film like this is not intended to, the only thing it's intended to do is get the audience to gasp. That's all. This is only going for the shock value. That's all movies like this do. Yes, there's a narrative. Yes, there is a storyline, but it's about the graphic nature. It's about the intertwining of the taboo of the subjects, especially here in America, subjects we don't want to talk about, subjects that we're, all the violence you want, just don't show any nudity, don't show any sex. The human form is just off limits unless you're riddling it with bullets. So in this, that's where they go. That's the area that they're willing to dive into, is to take the things that we cherish and we love and we find intimate, part of our nature, and then really making them gross or horrific or terrifying in some respect, whether it's alien impregnation or people melting together and like skin all over the place. And it gets overly gross. But that's what Yuzna and Gordon made a career out of, and that was juxtaposing these two things against one another. So everyone watches it and you're there for the ick factor, for going, oh god, fuck.
Yeah.
It's not like Alien, where the chest burster scene at the dinner table adds to it, adds to the drama of the characters that we love so much between Ripley and the crew. This one is, you're just going for the dinner table scene. It's you just
really quick. Sorry, really quick. Anna, just ignore him. Best thing to do. Don't worry about it, JL. Just
okay. So anyway, the mods will take care of that. So
yeah,
but that's what I love it. Yuzna's work and Gordon's work are very much like Henenlotter, very much like Basket Case, like Frankenhooker, movies like that. I know that Aaron has Abel Ferrara. These individuals, they strive just to push things to their extreme, to push them to their limits. While Progeny doesn't really do that, doesn't really like push boundaries. It does. It's signature Yuzna and Gordon work right there, which is why I like it as part of their filmography. Here you get to see all the cool stuff that alien possession films or alien abduction films won't show you, and that is all the gooey proboscises that get stuck in places and weird alien hybrid babies.
You have to put up Road No Last Names comments.
Yeah, that was good.
It says take something beautiful and make it gross. Have you seen childbirth? Yeah. To quote Jeff Foxworthy, it's like a wet basset hound coming in through the cat door. Absolutely, it's wild. But I think that's the appeal of Yuzna and Gordon's work, and many other directors who dabble in this, and the kind of sexploitation, and they utilize the sci-fi genre, the horror genre, or both, or as a vehicle for their exploitation films. This is the perfect opportunity. It's got everything you want. It's got gore, it's got nasty, it's got autopsy stuff, it's got crazy Arnold Vosloo staring in the camera, and then you got Brad Dourif and the other horror icons, and then of course lots of sex, lots of boobies, and lots of tentacles. So you can't go wrong. The movie's not great, but it is great. That's the point. It's not great, but it's great. It's everything we're looking for.
Is it?
I think I can enjoy it on its merits. It's obviously not. It's not intended to win awards. It's intended to be another film where we do creepy, gross things, and you see a bunch of horror icons in it who all do. They drive the film up. Arnold Vosloo, Lindsay Krause, and fucking Wilford Brimley and Brad Dourif, who hit their marks and do drop into professional performance. Nobody tried to phone this one in. It was well done. So,
oh no, this film has a clear vision. And Brian Usna definitely hit it. He knew exactly what he wanted and he accomplished it. And is it worth a watch? Yeah, it's worth a watch. Is it something that I'm going to put on my playlist? Probably not.
Oh bullshit! You got that on repeat.
Oh, Sorsha brings up Species, very much the same. Species did the same thing. Was the beauty of Natasha Henstridge's character, slimy alien sex with nipple tentacles.
Yeah,
so,
but
wait, let's not knock that just yet. I'm just
that's true. That's true. Biological tassels, pretty badass. I'm just saying. Exactly.
So I will actually, on that note, as we look at the influences of my storyboards.
Oh, Aaron was with the Turd Shine 3000 by Warren Co. Get your Turd Shine 3000 now. Absolutely. So, hey, I did pimp you to hoe. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's got to be a commercial that we shoot for this.
the Turd Shine 3000.
Yeah, we
by Warren Co. So that's what I enjoy. It's one of the tried and true, one of the better tropes of horror is drawing horror into the intimate, taking the things that we taking these things that are very personal to us. Those private things. It plays upon the puritanical foundations of our country, especially this particular of American society. We don't like talking about sex. We don't like putting the female form out there or the male form out there. Full frontal nudity is taboo. There's a certain distance we won't go, a certain line we won't cross when we come to these things in particular art forms. While some people will push the boundaries and constantly try to go farther, Frank Henenlotter, Abel Ferrara, Usna did as well. Gordon did as well. They'll push it and push and push it, and we need more of that. We really, really do. But that's the reason this thing works so well and why it's tried and true. And that's why we can constantly go back to it. What gets me is that as a Lovecraft fan, is that why is it always Lovecraftian horror? Or Lovecraftian style horror that is juxtaposed against sex and the female form like this? Because my conclusion is that sex is what it is, and we have this kind of puritanical view it as a foundation of this nation, and Lovecraft, cosmic horror and dread, like the most extreme of stuff. Human beings completely out of their element, at the mercy of these ancient cosmic entities that we cannot overpower and fight, and usually slimy and gross and tentacles like this. Bring those two together. This is kind of like chocolate and peanut butter. If the chocolate were space tentacles and the peanut butter was hot actresses.
I'm kind of
I never thought I'd get to say that in my life. It's like the best. That's like the best line ever.
Yep.
So we want to ask the audience.
I'm definitely cutting. I'm making a note. I'm cutting that line for the next trailer.
Link twice if you need help.
Does sex horror freak you out? Because there's a couple out there. I know we've mentioned Species and some other films that deal with it. Does sex horror freak you out?
Okay.
I tell you what. Before you jump into this. No, hang on a second. Before you jump into this, sex horror, like juxtaposing sex with horror. And it's not a horror film. Well, maybe not. I don't know. Gone Girl. The same with Rosamund Pike and Neil Patrick Harris.
That made me see Rosamund Pike as not a sexy lady anymore.
That shit fucked me up.
Me too.
Because it was like, what? It was like, okay, this is much. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's never getting hard again.
Yeah.
That shit was fucking brutal.
When I saw that film, I was like, oh man, Rosamund Pike, she's super hot. I'm gonna watch this. And I was like, she's not hot to me anymore.
Nope.
That was the point of the film. She's tired of being a sex symbol.
Straight up, no. I'm curious about like her husband. I don't know if she's married or not, but if her husband is like, oh yeah, good job, honey, good job. Excuse me, honey, what do you need? Do you need something?
I will need something.
McKenna Mitchell brings up, not sure if this counts, but for some reason the Prometheus abortion scene fucks me up. laughing my ass off. Oh, the C-section, the cesarean.
Yeah,
when
from the
pulls
machine. And
okay, when she pulls it out, that's one thing. But when that thing bursts open and all that fluid goes into her, I was like, oh, that's just unsanitary. I was like, that's how you get infections, young lady.
Yeah. You need to clean yourself, okay? Wash your insides.
You need to wash that out before. Oh, you're closing up and you didn't even clear the field. It's, come on.
You're gonna get septic.
Oh, that's not good. Biological contaminant. Oh, Tony Regime. The start of Antichrist was a difficult watch. Antichrist was a rough one, and that was that was Lars von Trier. That was him. There was a lot of graphic sex in that, with a lot of graphic violence and horror that the two were pressing. However that was bridged. That was some freaky fucking shit in that one. Oof.
Yeah, there's some bad ones. Out there.
For me, okay, so you talked about Species, and outside of the trash that followed the first one, the sexy stuff in there, like it wasn't Natasha Henstridge it was Natasha Henstridge.
Yeah.
And then there were some things that happened, like, when she had the tentacle shoot out of her tits and whatnot. That was like, all right, that's kind of weird. But now we're talking about whatchamacallit, where the ass is in the face and whatnot. It's like, what the fuck am I looking at? I don't want to look at this. And then tentacle porn. I'm like, I don't want to look at this either. It's not my thing.
Travis Brown brings up Dagon when he it's like, because in Dagon, obviously the fish people,
fish people, yeah.
And she pulls when he pulls the covers off, because she was hot, and then he pulls the covers off, and her legs are like, wow. Yeah. it's like, ooh, get some ideas. No.
Yeah, Castle.
Listen, I can work past that.
I can work past this. Yeah. She's beautiful. Her face is beautiful. Gosh, she's got a grip. Like, oh, fuck, man. I'm looking like a sperm whale. The fucking sucker marks and shit.
Cindy Sue, I'm with you on that one. That's just not right.
Oh, that's not right. That's absolutely not right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always.
I was just thinking the Aries, do fish people's dirty vaginas smell like humans?
It smells like baby powder.
Yeah. Smells delicious. What?
There's always that moment in Galaxy Quest where he starts making out with like Jane Doe, and like they go down, and then there's just like this kind of like a piercing noise. Yeah. Gets me every time.
Alien sex, absolutely. All right, well, man, this has been an interesting show, considering that we had a break in it and then we had to come back, which is kind of a bummer. Definitely let us know your answer to that. Does sex horror freak you out, or horror sex? Does it freak you out? Let us know in the comments below, or of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com. But of course, it is trivia time. It is that time. Yes, it is trivia time, and here we go. There's a tartar sauce joke in there I'm not going to make. You technically just did. You technically just did.
That was a good one too.
It's like you spread them and just like bloop, 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 bloop. Long John Silver's.
Someone have had to jump on this podcast, hear that, and be like, "Nope." They just
they came in right at that point, and I'm going over this one.
It's like that scene in Naked Gun where the fucking cleaner walks in on Frank Drebin putting on the suit from Enrico Palazzo. Enrico Palazzo bent over, and he walks and goes, "Whoops. Sorry, guys."
Sorry. All right. Tonight's trivia question. All right. Get those Google fingers ready. The first person to get the correct answer to this trivia question in the live chat will get a mystery item from the Week in Horror store from all of the cool stuff that we have. Calamari ring. Yeah. Oh, yes. So the question tonight's trivia question is, what was Hitchcock doing during his signature cameo in The Birds? That question again is, what was Hitchcock doing during his signature cameo in The Birds? The first person to get the correct answer in the live chat wins a special item from the Week in Horror store. And McKenna Mitchell, no, he was not fish fucking. I can see him.
Frayed edges.
Hitchcock.
That was quick. Frayed edges is the wiener.
Frayed yes, he was. Congratulations.
Yes.
Frayed edges. Yes, he was walking his dogs.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely. That was it. Let me go ahead and get your name down. And make sure that we get that printed out and sent out to you ASAP. Frayed, I don't believe I have your shipping details. Go ahead and email them to us, or you can message me directly and get me those details so we can get your item out to you. Congratulations to Frayed Edges. Yes, Alfred Hitchcock was walking 2 of his personal terriers in the scene as he was coming out of the pet store and when the main characters were going in. So that was his signature cameo that he does in his films. Tony Regime says he was reading a newspaper. Nope. Knitting. Renee name. Nope. He was not knitting. But yeah, walking a dog.
Renee name.
Renemy?
No, I just thought it was fine. It sounded like you said Renee.
Jay Verse says not serving in World War I. Excellent point. NA said fapping. No, he wasn't fapping. Aaron Ray said assaulting Tippi Hedren with a stage prop.
That's probably true.
That's hilarious. Yeah, there's a bunch of people who got it there. He was walking his dogs. He was. Congratulations, Frayed. Well done. We're going to get that printed and shipped out to you ASAP.
All right. And that will close out another episode of the Week in Horror podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash those like and subscribe buttons and be sure to hit that bell so you never miss a future episode. Join us next week when we look back at the wicked British quirkiness of Horror Hospital, the stomach-churning, what the hell? Henenlotter sexploitation spectacle, Bad Biology, the Frito Bava horror classic I Vampire, and the interdimensional vampire horror Bled. Fuck me, I need new glasses. Oh, Christ. Sorry, Angela. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the awesome artwork you see splattered all over our merch, which you can find over at Teespring. For more Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links in the description. Follow us on all the socials for the Daily Splatter, your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, and all kinds of horror shenanigans. And of course, you can support the show through our PayPal links or through our Patreon. Join the higher tiers for early content Join the higher tiers for early content access and behind-the-scenes fun with the crew, or you can just support the show for as little as $1 a month. It's $1 a month, less than one coffee, like a third of your coffee at Starbucks, guys. Join us. What are you waiting for?
Join us.
As always, thank you all for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could have. I'm some fat guy.
And I'm Eugene.
And I'm JL.
We'll see you next week. And as always, stay scared.
Yeah.